Hi guys, I am Sophia Miles.
And I am Wanda Meijer, and this is our YouTube channel.
Today we are so excited because we are about to introduce our first ever guest. Now, just before I let her join the conversation, I wanted to explain a bit about this woman. We only met recently, but I completely fell in love with her. I'm obsessed with her. She's the most amazing, incredible human being, but also the most talented actress in the world, apart from me. So let me introduce her. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Talisa Garcia.
Hello, how are you? Thank you for having me, Sophia and Wanda. This is brilliant. I can't wait. This has been my highlight of the month, 2 months.
So in lockdown.
Completely, yeah. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Well, listen, I want you to do all the talking really, but you've got the most incredible life. One of the most incredible life stories I've ever heard, actually. And even though I've only known you for a short while, you know, we have touched on various things, but I know that there's so much more that I don't know. And I know that our viewers would love and just be blown away by you. So let's get started. We basically, the first question is, go right back and tell us where you were born. Tell me your, early childhood history, and let's do that first, shall we?
Yeah. I mean, okay, let's start from the very beginning. I was born in Santiago in Chile. It's really difficult because obviously I don't really know when, because I was adopted, and I was found on the streets as a baby with a 4 or 5 year old boy who they believed could have been my brother. They weren't sure, but he had disabilities. So we went to I went to La Ciudad del Niño, which is where all the orphan children go, or babies. I was a baby, and he had some sort of disability, so apparently he went somewhere completely different. Then, of course, my family, whom I adore to bits, they adopted me. My mother couldn't have any more children, and she wanted another little boy, and there I came along. And so my family adopted me, and they were socialist. And in those days, if you were a socialist, especially in Chile, you weren't a socialist, you were being accused of being a communist, which they weren't. But, so they were very left wing, and they had to flee the country pretty quick, especially after 1973, when Pinochet took over, and many thousands of missing people. It was a horrendous time. My father went to prison. He was tortured. My mother went into hiding and separated my brother and I until they could get back to us. And then we left Chile. I can't remember. I remember certain things. A couple of things, but there's no memory really. I mean, it's, in a way, I think I'm glad. To be honest with you, Sophia. So we left, and we came to Wales. Well, we went to Wales because I'm in London at the moment. We went to Wales, to Swansea.
Well, we love a bit of Welsh, don't we, Talisa? And when we're together, we talk like that, don't we? Because
it loves it, I do.
I know.
Loves that.
Me too, because my mum was Welsh, and we practically have the same accent when we talk Welsh, don't we? Because it was from the same kind of part of the world. I was in Newport, my grandparents were.
Yeah, I know it. I know it really well. I mean, I lost the Welsh accent.
Yeah, but you still got it, honey. You still got it when you need it.
Yeah, especially if I'm around Welsh people and I've had a drink. Oh my God, then it's like full on. But I can still go back into it quite easily. So back to that. We went to Swansea, and problems started sort of we saw the problems very, very early on. My parents actually saw them.
When you say problems, explain to me what the, because this is a very sort of important part of your life. So
Yeah.
what were the problems?
I was a very, very different child, a very different boy, because I was a boy. And I don't deny that. So I'm not trying to sort of, you know, convince people that I'm biologically a woman. No, I was born a boy. And but a very, very different boy. I think my parents thought that I would just be a gay man or a gay boy when I grew up.
Yeah.
So they didn't think about it too much until I would ask my parents why I had to wear shorts instead of a dress, why I couldn't dress like a girl. So that's when they could see that something was a little bit different. I don't think they ever expected it to turn out the way it did, because in those days not many people knew about this. You know, it wasn't spoken about, and you know, a boy wanting to be a woman or a girl was just crazy for them. So but I kept saying to my parents that I didn't feel right. There was something that didn't, it was very peculiar, because I felt incredibly normal as a human being, but my brain didn't actually match my body.
Mm-hmm.
And it's I can't, unless you're in that situation, you can't even begin to explain it. It's a very strange situation, and it does get really horrendous as well, because as a child you don't really understand it. You know, you're like, it's as if God has played a trick on you. It's like, okay, you know, I'm going to make you a boy, but actually your brain's going to be that of a girl. And it's just weird. It's so bizarre.
Wow. So that was in your sort of early childhood. And so tell us, I'm sure Wanda and I are interested to know, sorry, the sort of, what happened then when you hit puberty? How did that feel?
That's when it all went a little pear-shaped, really, to be honest with you. Because even though, I mean, in Swansea, I had the best time. A lot of people assume that I've had a really bad childhood because of being transsexual. I had a very bad first 3 years of my life. I won't deny that. But yet, when I was a teenager in school, I had a lot of friends. And I was the joker of the class. I always made everybody laugh. And I think that was my defense mechanism coming in. Because when boys did call me a pufter, which they did, I would make everybody laugh, which would then take something away from it. And then I became sort of the clown of the class. And everybody liked me. So it was my defense mechanism, and it worked. Wow. But inside I felt I was just dying, because I knew, like, you know, people live for 80 years, 90 years. And I thought, how can I, when I was 12, 13, how can I carry on living this life for the rest of my life?
Yeah.
And feel this difference. So I got into a huge depression. I couldn't get out of it, and I didn't see any other way out for me. And I remember it very clear. I couldn't see a way out. So the only way out for me was just to go to sleep and never wake up, and just, you know, commit suicide, kill myself, which was the only way out that I thought there was for me, because I wasn't going to live that life. There was no way I would have lived that life. And yeah, when I was 13, I tried to commit suicide. And then, of course, I was hospitalized. I was sectioned, actually. And I'm not ashamed to say that. A lot of people sort of think of sectioning as like, whoa. But you know what? It was actually the best thing that ever happened to me, because I got to know about me, about who I was. And I also got to know the name for what I had. You know,
Can I just ask you something? You not so long ago you referred to yourself as transsexual. What is the difference between transsexual and transgender?
I think nowadays it's very confusing because obviously, for the obvious reasons, that there are many people with many genders that are coming out, and it's confusing for a lot of people, including myself as a transsexual. Transgender, I would say nowadays it's an umbrella for all these genders that have come out, and I think transsexuals, transgender, transvest, everything's under there. And I respect them completely, 100%. Be who you want to be, dress how you want to dress, and be the person you want to be. I'm more than anyone understand that. But for me, it wasn't about dressing up. It wasn't about going with boys because it was men that I fancied. It was about just being a woman and my body fitting with my brain. That's what it was about. And I would do anything to correct what I felt nature had sort of done a mistake, whether it was hormonal, like, maybe my parents' hormones. It could have been absolutely anything. I definitely 100% believe you're born transsexual.
Yeah.
So I think that is a difference. I think transvestite is somebody that dresses up at the weekend. I mean, I don't know a lot of the other genders at the moment, I've got to be honest with you, but transgender has just become that umbrella. And but transsexual, I think it is very, very different mentally, psychologically. It's the transsexual people that I've met, they feel exactly the same way that I did. They couldn't live the way they were. There's no sort of, okay, I can live with this bit and I can, it doesn't bother me. It's not like that.
So after that breakdown, what was the next step? I mean, I know, because I know you and we've had this conversation, that you have had a sex change, but talk us through how that came about. Did you just speak it over with the psychiatrist, or? You did it quite young, didn't you? You had your sex change when?
18. Yeah, I mean, with the psychiatrist, I had to see, when I was sectioned in hospital, I was there for about 6 months. I was only sectioned for about, I think it was a section for 30 days, but then it was again for 30 days, another 30 days. And your parents have to sign that you're sectioned, and then they can't take you out. Once you're sectioned, they can't take you out.
What does sectioned mean actually?
Sectioned is when you're a danger to yourself or to others.
And they won't allow you to leave they won't allow you to leave the hospital of your own will.
Even if your parents want to take you out. Even if your parents want to take you out, they won't allow it. So
like property of the state, you have to be there, stay there.
It's a bit like being arrested.
Like that. Yeah.
Actually, it's very similar to being arrested. It's sort of for your own good, though.
Yeah. Okay.
And had you been acting at this point, or did your acting start after your sex change?
No, I was going to drama school. I was going to Sylvia Young, and there it was really phenomenal because in Sylvia Young I could be who I wanted to be. It didn't matter how effeminate I was, because I don't think I was ever camp. I was just very effeminate. I would wear lip gloss, and I remember the see-through mascara. I don't know if they still do that.
Yeah.
And do you remember, do you ladies remember with your parents going back years, so that the sole of your shoes wouldn't waste too much? They used to put these metal things. Do you remember those?
Like tap shoes, you mean?
Yes, a little bit, but they used to put them so they would last longer when you went to school. Well, I remember I'd put loads of them so that when I used to walk down the hallway, they would sound like heels.
Oh,
I used to love it.
Yeah.
And I would wear lip gloss and I mean, I was still a child, but I was doing that. And in Sylvia, I was there for a very short time, but there I had a fantastic time. Because I could be who I wanted to be. But that is when I really had my breakdown, because I realized that, you know, if I was going to be a dancer, I wanted to be a female dancer. If I was going to be an actor, I wanted to be an actress. I wanted to be a woman, first and foremost. And I had my breakdown and then went to the hospital, got sectioned, and found out about myself and about who I am. And
what was the thing that made the turnaround for you?
Sorry?
What was the thing that made the turnaround for you, that you had a solution, that you found a way out?
It was when they gave it a name. As soon as they said, the psychiatrist said to my family, because we used to have family meetings, which is you have a social worker, a psychiatrist, the doctors, etc., the nurse that's in charge of you, a teacher, because we had a school in the hospital. So you have a meeting and they said, you know, your child is transsexual. And as soon as they gave it a name, you know, it's like well, it's not an illness, but once you know, if you were ill and you have a bellyache and they tell you what it is, you know, you have a pain here, you have a pain, but you don't know what it is, it becomes more desperate, doesn't it? Once they tell you, oh, it's this or it's that, then there's a certain route that you can take and you think, okay, I've got whatever, how do I get rid of this? Yeah. And when they said you're transsexual, I was, okay, what is exactly as a transsexual? How does this work? What happens? What's my next step? And that was when an amazing psychiatrist gave me a book on Caroline Cossey, which was Tula, and she'd done the James Bond film. And she was just, I mean, she still is, but she was stunningly beautiful. And here was this person that was born a guy who had become a model and now was a James Bond girl. And, you know, she was just like me. I could relate to her. And I just immediately, there was like a thing in my brain. And yeah, I can do this. You know, it's a challenge. It's throw me whatever you throw at me. I will try my best to get out of it.
Do you know what I think? Do you know what I think? You're going to be the first transgender person to win an Oscar.
Oh, can you imagine? Can you imagine?
That would be great. Yeah.
And the only thing is, who have you got to take as your date?
Of course, Sophia. Who else, babes?
So now we're talking about the acting. We've sort of, well, unless you want to speak about having the operation, but I mean, you did say to me that once you did it, that was just the biggest relief, and you know.
Yeah, I mean, once you do, I mean, I knew I was that was what I couldn't have it done before 18. So I waited till my 18th birthday, and I had it a month after my 18th. And I wasn't scared. I was not in any way. I don't know. I wasn't fazed by it at all. I knew. Everybody had said, have you researched it? Or no. I didn't want to know any details. I didn't want to know how they did it. I didn't want to know anything. I knew at the time it was about 6-7 hours long. I knew it was the second most dangerous operation after an open heart operation at that time. I mean, now I think things have changed a bit. So I knew all that. But there was, my mum was like, oh my God, you know, what happens if? And I was like, well, if I don't have it, you know, I'm not going to live. Either way, if I die on the table, I die. And if I don't die on the table and I live as a male, I will die anyway. There's no doubt in my mind that I would die eventually, you know, because I wasn't happy. I wasn't a happy person.